Yeah, you can hear me right across the room. All right, Tucker, thank you so much. And welcome to Hannity. And yes, we're broadcasting from the sewer, the swamp. In other words, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Tonight, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Darryl Parks, a very powerful debate. You don't want to miss it. Also tonight, we made a promise to you. We're going to hold Washington accountable. That's why we're here. Our exclusive sit-down interview with the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. We will ask him about the Republicans' new tax plan, President Trump's agenda, and so much more. But first, we're following two major breaking news stories tonight. The president did unveil the GOP tax plan. It calls for massive cuts, sweeping reform. Is it enough? Will it help you? We'll explain what it means for you and your family. Also, the president, he is not backing down in the NFL anthem controversy. And we have brand new comments from the president. We'll play that. And he spoke exclusively with Fox and Friends. Weekend co-host Pete Hegseth will play all of that for you. Also tonight, a Hannity history lesson on how the left, the mainstream media, how they've been disrespecting the flag, the national anthem, and our military for years. I promise you will not get this anywhere else on your television dial. We got all of that in tonight's very important breaking news opening monologue from D.C. So President Trump, he hit the road today to outline details of his tax plan and how it's going to impact you and your families. Let's take a look.
This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and I guess it's probably something I could say that I'm very good at. I've been waiting for this for a long time. We're going to cut taxes for the middle class, make the tax code simpler and more fair for everyday Americans, and we are going to bring back the jobs and wealth that have left our country, and most people thought left our country for good. We want tax reform that is pro-growth, pro-jobs, pro-worker, pro-family, and yes, tax reform that is pro-American.
Now, basically, the president, he's following through on what he promised you on the campaign trail. Now, here's what the president outlined today. He's going to consolidate the 7 current brackets to just 3 brackets with new rates, 12, 25, and 35%. He's going to double the standard deduction. And if you're single, well, you're not going to pay taxes on the first $12,000 you make. If you're married, that increases to $24,000. The child tax credit, that also will be expanded. And he will repeal the alternative minimum tax, and he will end the death tax, double taxation. Now, the corporate rate will be lowered to 20%, and he wants to create a 25% pass-through tax rate, which is going to help small business owners. And he's also calling for a very low repatriation tax, and that's a tax rate for multinational corporations that targets money directly that's parked overseas because of the high taxation and regulation here, and that allows these multinationals to bring trillions back to the American economy. So, let me explain. The corporate side of tax reform is so very important, and here's why. When businesses face higher taxes, it gets passed on to you, the customers. Corporations don't pay taxes. Now, if President Trump's plan is approved, all these companies will have billions of dollars, if not more, of extra money. They're not going to put it in their bank account. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to invest capital in manufacturing centers and factories, which will create jobs for the millions of forgotten men and women in this country. That's what we need. That's what we want. That's what many of you voted for. And to add to that, the House Freedom Caucus, they are now supporting the president's plan. So basically, everything that the president is proposing is designed to help grow the economy. And the only thing I would add to the plan personally, give a tax cut across the board. Let everybody have it. And in many ways, it's a lot like what President Reagan did in the 1980s. Now, President Reagan, he created the blueprint for economic success. And it all adds up. Here are the facts. Reagan, he slashed over the course of his presidency the top marginal rate from 70 to 28%. As a result, economic growth exploded. For example, in 1984, GDP growth, get this, hit 7.3%. Well, Barack Obama didn't reach 3% in a single year of his presidency. The only president in history not to do that. 20 million jobs were created under Reagan after the '82 recession. Revenues to the government doubled by cutting taxes. And America, it saw the longest period of peacetime economic growth in history to that point. And if Americans, if you want more proof that works, well, just take a look at what happened when John F. Kennedy, a Democrat, believe it or not, he cut the top marginal rate from 91% to 70%. 77%, same thing. Millions of jobs created, GDP growth soared. But today, the left, predictably, all they want to do, despite all the tax cuts that the president's proposing for the middle class and corporations and small businesses, they do what they always do, right to the playbook. Let's play class warfare. Take a look.
Under this plan, the wealthiest Americans and wealthiest corporations make out like bandits, while middle-class Americans are left holding the bag.
What has been released today makes a total mockery out of the president's pledge that he wanted tax relief to be for the working class and it wouldn't be for the wealthy.
Is the swindle of the American people selling the same blueprint the failed trickle-down Bush tax cuts for the rich did not create jobs and only increase the deficit.
Same boring talking points. And then you got the mainstream media, an extension of the Democratic Party. All they did was echo those talking points. Watch, listen to this.
As you look at this plan, are those cuts imbalanced, favoring the wealthy over the working class?
The president says this plan will provide little benefit for people of wealth like himself. Is that true?
In a word, no. The majority of this tax plan, the benefits are going to go to the wealthy.
If he's worth, as he says, $10 billion and he doesn't have to pay any tax on his estate, that would be an enormous bonanza for him and other very wealthy people, right?
Absolutely. You can cut taxes on people who are lower income, but it's peanuts in their wallet compared to the windfall that would be for the wealthy. They're not even mentioning some of the easiest stuff that benefits the wealthy and that is considered by everyone to be essentially unfair, that people like hedge fund managers and very wealthy investment professionals pay such a low tax rate.
Good point, Heidi.
They're just wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. Now, the Trump-hating Washington Post, perfect example. They attack the president's tax plan. Look at the headline, what it says. GOP proposes deep tax cuts, but provides few details on how to pay for them. Now, this is what the liberal press and people on the left will never, ever understand, in spite of Reagan and Kennedy's success. The idea, it's not a zero-sum game. You want to grow the economy. And if you do that, well, those people out of work and in poverty and on food stamps, they'll have jobs and stop taking handouts and they'll start paying taxes. In other words, you incentivize people to work and pay taxes. You create an environment that's growth-oriented for everybody. Democrats, the media, they just play class warfare. They've been doing it for decades. Now, you got to remember this. Democrats and the mainstream left establishment media, they're not telling you that under President Obama, they'll never tell you this, 13 million more Americans were on food stamps. 8 million more Americans were put in poverty. 95 million Americans were out of the labor force. Lowest labor participation rate since the 70s and the worst economic recovery since the 40s. Lowest home ownership rate in 51 years. And by the way, President Obama accumulated more debt than every other president before him combined. Great job, President Obama. Now, they also don't want you to know that here's the facts. The rich that they hate so much, the top 1% of wage earners in America, they pay 39.5% of all federal income taxes. Top 10%. Wage earners, they pay 70.9% of personal income taxes. So it sounds like the rich are paying their fair share to me. Now, the bottom 50% of wage earners, they pay 2.8% combined. And we can't forget, 35% of tax filers pay nothing. Zero federal income tax. And under President Trump's plan, they'll even pay less. So my advice to the GOP is very simple. Stay the course, follow the Reagan, the Kennedy models, and stick to the plan that the president is proposing. Now, also tonight, President Trump, he's not backing down in his fight to defend the flag, the national anthem, and stand up for our military. Now, the president called out the NFL national anthem protesters once again. Good for him. Take a look.
The NFL is in a very bad box. You cannot have people disrespecting our national anthem, our flag, our country, and that's what they're doing. And in my opinion, the NFL has to change. Or you know what's going to happen? Their business is going to go to hell.
Now, as the president keeps saying, this issue is very simple. It's about respect. He never once mentioned race, not one time, despite what the liberal media is saying to you when they lie to you. Now, the military fights, you know what? They fight, bleed, and die. Why? So football players and others will have the opportunity, and in the case of football players, to make millions of dollars for playing a sport on Sundays. Now, members of the military, they put everything on the line every single day for all of our freedoms. They don't do it for the money. They don't get paid a lot. On average, privates make $40,000 a year. Football players, on average, make over $2.4 million a year. And by the way, the guys in the military, they don't do it for recognition. They do it because they love the country, and they're willing to fight and die defending the country, and they fight under that flag. You know what? A bare minimum, every single American should stand with their hand over their hearts during the national anthem and honor them. The veterans, active duty military members, do they not deserve that honor? Is showing respect to the military, is that really too much to ask? And as I've been saying, till the NFL fixes this, addresses this issue, right now, Saturday is my football day. I watch college football, and I think millions of Americans will be doing the same. And as you can see, they're going to stop watching. According to a new poll, 64% of you, the American people, agree with the president's position that this is completely out of line. Ratings for the NFL already down 11%, just compared to last year, which was a low year for them. We're also seeing more fallout from the NFL controversy. The national anthem singer for the Baltimore Ravens, veteran named Joey Odoms, he has now resigned, and now a CEO that provides the wardrobe for NBC's on-air talent said he's no longer going to do that, and he's also pulling his ads from stations that broadcast NFL games. Taya Kyle, remember the widow of American hero, Navy SEAL Chris Kyle? She's now speaking out with a very powerful open letter to the NFL. Let me read part of it to you. It says, your desire to focus on division and anger has shattered what many people loved the most about the sport. Football was really a metaphor for an ideal world. Different backgrounds, talents, political beliefs, and histories as one big team with one big goal, to do well, to win together. I'll tell you, summed it up perfectly. Sports are supposed to be the one thing that can unite us, an escape from politics. Americans don't want to see players disrespecting the flag, not standing for the anthem, and making cheap political points. By the way, what is their big political point? Is there one universal point? And the NFL, they also continue to be exposed as total hypocrites. Take a look at this quote from an article written by Mark Deason. The NFL's Game Operations Manual, get this, is their own rules. It says players must be on the sideline for the national anthem. They must stand at attention. They must face the flag, hold helmets in their left hand, and refrain from talking or face discipline, such as fines, suspensions, and/or the forfeiture of draft choices. And by the way, that's first offense. And then there's the mainstream media. They're just pathetic. And despite the president clearly stating again and again that his criticism of the NFL has nothing to do with race, the media, they're engaging in identity politics. So predictable, so pathetic, and they lie almost on an hourly basis. It's so bad, the information crisis in this country. Take a look.
This current NFL kneeler movement may have kicked off with Colin Kaepernick, but when it comes to athletes using their platforms for change, he did not start the fire.
70 years ago, this was the face of change and of social activism in sports, when Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color line in 1947.
Where's Colin Kaepernick a year later? A year later, still from a visible standpoint, unemployed as far as the NFL is concerned. The fact of the matter is he's committed. He's put his money where his mouth is, nearly $1 million to community efforts to be a bridge builder.
President Trump has clearly decided that his political livelihood depends on widening this country's racial divide. Why, we have to ask, does this man keep picking at the scab of ethnic anger?
Donald Trump thinks, hey, I can get a victory. I can talk about entitled black athletes who make too much money. He thinks that's going to be successful for him.
This is somebody who is focused on stirring up his working class white base, and he thinks this is the way to do it.
40% of our active military members are racial and ethnic minorities, and you can better believe they have a vested interest in racial justice. Mr. President, don't you think they deserve better?
The destroy Trump media, you know what, just like always, they have been so quick to jump and race to judgment like they always do and just trash the president. And frankly, what are they doing? They're defending those disrespecting the flag, the anthem, and the military. You know what? It's time for a Hannity history lesson. For all you people at MSNBC, the Conspiracy Network, fake news, CNN, try and keep up with this. You know what? You in the media, you like to always, all you want to do is trash the president. What is he doing? He's defending those who respect the flag, the anthem, and those that fought under that flag. This shouldn't come as a surprise. You guys on the left, you know what? Journalists, frankly, have been mocking the national anthem, and we haven't been paying attention for years. Let me give you an example. Former liberal, CNN, MSNBC, fake news host, Bill Press, one of their employees, said this. Listen to this, just a couple of years ago.
It is a major crusade of mine, a major cause of mine, and that is to get rid of the Star-Spangled Banner. In the home of the brave, I don't know.
I mean, I get that part of it.
Are we the only ones who are brave on the planet? I mean, all the brave people live here. I mean, it's just stupid, I think. I'm embarrassed every time. I'm embarrassed every time I hear it.
I'm embarrassed every time I hear the national anthem? Wow. And he worked for CNN and NBC? Whew. Now, other members of the liberal mainstream media, they have said similar things. They have bashed patriotic Americans who do salute and honor the flag. Let's take a look. Liberal Bill Moyers, PBS. Don't we help fund them? Take a listen.
The next time you say the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remember, it's a lie, a whopper of a lie. We coax it from the mouths of babes for the same reason our politicians wear those flag pins in their lapels. It makes the hypocrisy go down easier.
So sad. What a pompous ass. And former NBC News anchor Tom Brokaw, he once said he didn't think journalists should be wearing an American flag. Are we not all Americans first? And former ABC News anchor, remember my buddy Ted Koppel, Mr. Interview Me for 51 minutes and show 70 seconds of him looking great? He almost said the same thing. It's a blatant display of disrespect from people in the NFL and the media if it's perfectly into their rigid left-wing ideology. I don't get it. Rush Limbaugh, who's going to be with us tomorrow, he said this earlier this week, that the NFL has now become a tool of the left. How sad is this? But it's true. Watch.
We're dealing with liberalism here, and we're dealing with the left, and that's just not how they operate. Everybody knows how much I love the NFL and how bigger than life it's always seemed to me, but it doesn't seem bigger than life. It seems like a tool now. It's become a tool. I don't mean slang for fool. It has become something being used by the political forces of the left to advance their agenda, which is an anti-American agenda.
Here's what we all need to ask ourselves tonight, all right? What are the goals of the NFL national anthem protesters? Does anybody know? Is anyone going to talk about the NFL's inconsistencies on free speech and their flat-out hypocrisy? Are we going to talk about the billions of hard-earned tax dollars that go to the NFL so they can build their stadiums, and the money that the league literally was taking from the military so the league can honor the vets? They're being paid to honor them. You know what? And that was before, of course, they were publicly shamed. So who are the divisive people here? Who are the really divisive people? Is it the NFL or is it the president? The left or the president? The media or the president? Here now with reaction. Chief strategist for the Make America Great Again coalition, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, and civil rights attorney Darryl Parks. Darryl, let's start with you. Your thoughts.
Without question, I think people are missing the message here. This has always been about racial inequality in the country and drawing attention to the racial inequalities that African Americans and people of color face every day in America. This has never been about disrespecting the flag, our anthem. We all love America. It creates wonderful opportunities for all of us to succeed. Now, the message, though, needs to be clear. The people who are crying out, the president needs to find a way to bring us together. And so I call upon the president to find ways to bring us together in this time to understand that.
Daryl, isn't he bringing us together saying, don't disrespect the flag and the anthem, and don't disrespect those that fought, bled, and died under the flag, and respect the flag, respect the anthem, respect your country, respect the military. That's what he's saying.
But, Sean, let me say this to you. But he also has to say, why are the people feeling this way? Why are they feeling that inequalities exist? What can he as the president do to address this? That's the question for the president.
Dr. Cork?
Mr. Parks, you say you love the flag, you love this nation. Well, love the flag as well. The red of that flag, the stripes in that flag, that's the same red as the blood of Americans that fought and died for this nation. And we didn't look upon them based upon their skin color. The blood of a black African American is the same color as an Asian, as a white-skinned American. The people who fought on the beaches of Normandy, who fought in Vietnam, in Korea, in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's a symbol of unity. If you can't see the flag and the anthem as symbols of unity but political tools, then perhaps you should think again about which country you're loyal to.
Well, here's the problem. I think that when people are loyal to the flag, loyal to the anthem, but people still see the injustices in the streets that still exist throughout America. So we have to address that. Yes, we're loyal to the flag. Yes, we show allegiance. But we also see what's happening in police brutalities and inequities that exist throughout the country. So those things have to be addressed and should be addressed
Daryl, you
from
were
the top
wrong on
down.
Trayvon Martin. You were wrong in what the outcome would be. You were wrong in Ferguson.
I wasn't wrong.
And a lot of people were wrong in Baltimore. Cambridge police didn't act stupidly, did they? Dr. Gorka.
When you see those caskets come home from the battlefields with dead American soldiers and Marines in them, do we think about that flag having a skin color? Do we think about that flag belonging to a political party? Is it the GOP's flag? Is it the Democrats' flag? Does it belong to the urban cities? Does it belong to the derisively called flyover states? No, none of those dead Americans are honored by the flag in partisan ways. They are honored because the flag is a symbol of our nation. It's a symbol of our unity. And if you don't want to have a unitary nation, then you don't have a nation. If you don't respect the flag, then you don't respect the lives of the people who died for that nation. It's that simple.
Sharon, if I may, without question, when we see this flag, this is also the same flag that we see young African-American boys also laying in caskets. So there's Americans, many of us have seen the caskets and the lives of our people who have died for no reason at all under law, under the flag.
But that's
those
what
are
he
the
just
type
said.
of questions that we have to ask.
Daryl.
Well, no, but nobody.
I just said that.
You just said that.
I just said that. So why aren't we respecting the flag? If dead African Americans, if dead white Americans, if dead Asian, Latin American Americans are respected by that flag on the casket, why do you want to disrespect the flag?
I think you're missing the point. When the African-American boys are dying in our streets and the people who kill them are not being brought to justice, that's injustice. That's inequity that people are drawing attention to.
What did Obama do in all these deaths and shootings and record numbers? Nothing. Nothing. He didn't go to his own home city. He mentioned it like 3 times in his presidency.
But, Sean, without question, we're also waiting on President Trump to go to Chicago as well, too. That hasn't happened.
Thank you both. Powerful debate. Appreciate it. When we come back, holding Washington accountable, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, and breaking tonight, new comments from President Trump on the NFL. He spoke to Pete Hegseth. We're going to give you a preview of that only here on Hannity tonight.
Our economy cannot take off like they should unless we dramatically reform America's outdated, complex, and extremely burdensome tax code. It's a relic. My administration has been working closely with Congress to develop a framework for tax reform.
All right, that was the president earlier today announcing his tax reform proposal. Tonight, we went to the Capitol. We spoke with the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. Take a look. Mr. Speaker, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good to have you. Welcome to the Capitol.
It's great to be here, I think. Although this is the swamp.
Yeah, we're on the House side, though.
That's true. That's true. We're not on K Street or in the Senate. Right. Let me start with today's plan. because this is going to impact a lot of people. First question everyone's asking me, are they going to get it done? Is this going to happen? Is the Senate going to get it done?
We better get it done. And the answer is yes. This is one of the most important things we could do to help all Americans in this country. We ran on this. This is the kind of plan that Donald Trump ran on, that House Republicans ran on. And yes, we're going to get this done. This is about economic growth. It's about bigger paychecks. It's about more jobs. It's about a fairness system in our tax code. So we're really excited about this. That's why we spent all this time working with the president and, yes, working with the Senate and the House to make sure we're on the same page. So we work off this common outline, this common framework to go from here to get this done.
We'll get to the process in a second. Let's go over the plan. 7 brackets to 3. Middle-class tax cuts,
yes.
Standard deductions, child care tax cut is expanded. You eliminate the alternative minimum tax. Corporate rate, 20%. The president said he wanted 15 when he was running. 22.5 is the industrial average, okay?
So we're below the worldwide average.
Right, and then repatriation of trillions overseas to incentivize them to bring money over.
That's right, that's right.
And you can put it on a postcard or do it online.
Yes.
Explain, give more details.
You just said a lot right there.
Yeah.
So here's what this is about. This is about delivering middle-class taxpayers tax relief. There are a lot of people in this country working paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people in this country, because of the slow growth economy we had in the Obama years, never got a raise. A lot of economic anxiety. So this is really about them. This is about letting those hardworking taxpayers keep more of their own money and giving them a tax break, but also simplifying the system so much that 9 out of 10 taxpayers can fill out their taxes on a postcard, cleaning it up, simplifying it. And by the way, by getting rid of loopholes, you are making the system more fair so people who make the same kind of money pay the same taxes. It's fairness. It's unrigging the economy. It's getting all the connected crap out of the tax code. Excuse me for saying that, but this tax code is 31 years.
We say a lot worse. It's fine. Don't worry.
It's 31 years of special interest carve-outs put in this tax code. And as a result of that, people pay higher tax rates. Get the junk out of the code, lower the tax rates.
Let me go to some criticisms right off the top.
Sure.
Some people are saying, why not across the board? States like, for example, when you remove the state local income deduction. I live in New York. I pay 10% federal tax. California, 13.5%. No longer deductible. So while their rate may be lower, they're going to end up paying more.
Well, when
people that have the state income tax.
When you double the standard deduction, when you give more benefits like reducing and eliminating the marriage penalty and larger child tax credits, everybody in the middle class, even in blue states like that, are going to see a big break. So the other question is, should we be having some states subsidize other states who have big governments and high taxes? We want to get rid of that so that it's just fair across the board for everybody.
In other words, you acknowledge that people in states that are taxing.
Well, if you have
a
bigger government in your state, you have a bigger write-off because your government's bigger than if you're in a state with a smaller government. Why should we incentivize big government? That's point one. Point two, by getting rid of these loopholes and deductions, we can give everybody in the middle class a tax break. So what we want to do is reduce these deductions, get rid of these loopholes, so that everybody can just keep more of their own money in the first place. And you decide what to do with your money because we'll lower your tax rates. And if you have kids, we'll help you with that. We want to have an expanded child tax credit. And by raising the standard deduction, it just simplifies the thing so much so that people just don't pay taxes on those first $24,000 of money they earn.
I love the corporate tax because corporations can then invest in manufacturing centers and factories and create jobs. I love the repatriation because, again, that's trillions of dollars parked overseas. Hopefully they will invest in Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and states that have been depressed. But the one thing that I thought was a little different from he went from 70% to 28%, the top marginal rate.
He did 70%
over the course of his presidency.
In 81, and then he went from 50 down to 28 in 86. But yeah,
right, over the course of his presidency.
Right.
So, and it seems that wouldn't that be another part of the equation? In other words, it's all about growth.
Right.
And I have a Washington Post article today. It's like GOP proposes deep tax cuts, provides few details on how to pay for them. I can answer that question. It's about growth. So wouldn't cutting everybody's taxes when the top 10% already pay 70% of the bill, the bottom 50% basically pays none?
So I'd say this. First of all, for high-income taxpayers, they've done really well. It's the middle class that has really gotten squeezed in this country. So on the income tax rates for people's personal taxes, what the president feels very strongly about and Congress agrees is it's the middle class are the people who need the tax break. People who are low and middle income, they're the ones who are literally living paycheck to paycheck, who are worried about losing their job or not, they haven't gotten a raise in years. This is about them and not about people who are really high income earners getting a break.
When we come back, the Speaker talks about President Trump and Mitch McConnell. Why can't they do a thing in the Senate? Also, brand new comments from President Trump about the NFL. He spoke to our own Pete Hegseth. We'll give you previews straight ahead. And here's part two of my interview with Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. When I was here in February, I asked you very specifically, you gave me 200-day agenda. And in that you said that we're going to repeal, replace. You said vet refugees, build the wall, education right away, and you'd get it done in 200 days. Now, the House, to its credit, has accomplished a lot more than the Senate. I understand that you can claim success, but if Mitch McConnell can't even appoint two-thirds of the president's appointees and 9 months in, and Mitch McConnell, you have passed 270-some-odd bills that he has not taken up.
Yeah. So the point is, we're on schedule in the House. We passed the health care bill back in May. We passed the repeal and replace of Dodd-Frank. We did Kate's Law. We did sanctuary cities. We did the military. We did veterans. We did career and technical education reforms. We did school choice for D.C. We did pro-life legislation. We've done all these things. We passed 337 bills in the House as of this week.
And you have the different administration.
Yeah, this is at the same time more than Bush, more than Clinton, more than H.W. Bush. So more bills have passed the House this year under Donald Trump at this time than Obama and both Bushes and Clinton. The challenge we have is this chart. 274 of them are still in the Senate. So we haven't gotten them over the finish line in the Senate. Now, is that frustrating for the House? You bet it's frustrating for the House.
You talk to Mitch McConnell?
I do all the time. They got a couple of problems. Number one, you mentioned it. They got to do people. They have to do personnel. We don't do that in the House. We don't have to confirm judges and cabinet secretaries and assistant cabinet secretaries and ambassadors.
With all due respect, they're not doing a lot of that either.
Chuck Schumer can take up to 30 hours per person, so he can completely gum up the works. And then they have these rules, which we don't like these rules in the House, but they have these filibuster rules. The reason we're using reconciliation for tax reform is so that they can't filibuster that.
What about, shouldn't they just go to a simple majority in the Senate?
Look, you ask any House member and they'll say yes to that.
Is your answer yes?
Of course I'd like to see them do majority votes on these things.
Have you ever asked McConnell that?
We've talked about it a lot. I don't think that they don't have the votes there for it. That's just this flat, simple answer. So what do I do as a House leader?
You don't think he can even get the votes to get that done?
That's right.
Doesn't he have in charge of the rules? He's the majority.
No, but I don't think there's enough Republicans to vote for that because they worry that when liberals take over government, liberals will ram through liberalism.
So but there is
So
the House is tainted though by the Senate. But you know what Congress's approval rating is? By the way, yours is double what the approval rating of this Congress is. Congress is 15%. I think, and in fairness to you, you will talk to me. Mitch McConnell won't even take my call, and I think the audience that I hear from every day, and they write me on social media and they email and they're voicing their frustration. Yeah. Congress's approval rating 15%. They want to know that this is going to get done.
Yeah, so I actually wasn't looking for this job. As a person who wasn't looking for leadership jobs, I got to tell you.
You don't want it, huh?
He said, no, I'm fine. I'm just saying these jobs are a lot harder on the inside than they seem on the outside because you have to rally support and get things done and get consensus and deal with the rules and the situations as they exist. Not the world you wish you had, the world you have in front of you. Now, in the House, we've been extraordinarily productive. We've passed our agenda. We've passed all of our appropriation bills ahead of schedule this year. For the first time, a Republican majority has done it since 2004.
So the House, you believe, is tainted.
And rolling here in the House.
You believe the House is tainted by the inaction in the Senate.
Healthcare is a perfect example. We passed our repeal and replace healthcare bill in May.
How frustrating was it for you to watch John McCain, who promised 100 times to repeal and replace? Because I'm frustrated.
We're the ones who passed it. We're the ones who said we would do this, and then to see it not pass in the Senate.
And it was, by the way, it wasn't easy.
Yeah. No, it wasn't easy, but it's extremely frustrating. But here's the point I'm trying to get at, Sean.
Yeah.
There are still things we can get done, even with the rules they have over there. You know what the Congressional Review Act is? You can go back and rescind an old regulation like these Obama-era regulations. That was done once in 20 years. We've done 14 of them in law this year alone because they can't filibuster that. This tax reform bill, we're going to do it in such a way that they can't filibuster that. And we can limit the debate on it so we can get it done. So the point is, we're working with the world we have in front of us, right? And that is to get around this crazy filibuster rule and get these things done. And that is the plan we have. And I believe if Americans see their Congress giving them a postcard tax form, giving a middle-class tax break, getting rid of the special interest loopholes to make it fairer, and lowering taxes on businesses to bring jobs back from overseas and make it easier for businesses to create more jobs here, that is going to be something that's going to be good for all Americans. Bigger paychecks, more jobs, faster growth. We get that done, I think people are going to be pretty happy with Congress and with the president, because we will have kept our word.
Let's talk about Congress and the president. I know people that sit in Senate private closed-door meetings, and they write me what's said. I'll give you names: Ben Sasse, John McCain, at least 10 or 12 senators that don't want the president to succeed, Republican senators that openly